When Prince William takes the throne, Britain will witness one of the most significant royal transitions in modern history. But what will actually change? From his official title to the monarchy's traditions, even the way the royal family is structured. Nothing will remain exactly the same. Some changes will be expected, while others may surprise you. So, what will King William's reign truly look like? Let's uncover the 20 biggest changes that will take place when he becomes king. 20. Queen Catherine, Kate's new royal title. When Prince William becomes king, Catherine's title will undergo a significant change. She won't be a ruling monarch like Queen Elizabeth II, but will instead take on the title of Queen Consort, a title traditionally given to the wife of a reigning king. Unlike a ruling queen, a consort does not hold political power, but plays a crucial role in representing the monarchy and supporting the king in his duties. Historically, British consorts have been known by their first names, such as Queen Mary or Queen Alexandra. If William follows tradition, Catherine will likely be known as Queen Catherine rather than Queen Kate. However, her official title will be Queen Consort Catherine. While her role won't grant her direct authority, she will wield significant influence, much like Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, did before her. Catherine's responsibilities will expand dramatically with increased public engagements, international diplomacy, and continued support for charitable causes. Her transformation from the Duchess of Cambridge to Queen Catherine will mark a historic moment in modern monarchy, one that the world will be watching closely. 19. The King and the Church of England. The British monarchy has been deeply intertwined with the Church of England since the reign of King Henry VIII in the 16th century. As king, William will inherit the title of Supreme Governor of the Church of England, a role that dates back nearly 500 years. While largely symbolic today, this title places William at the head of the Anglican Church, requiring him to uphold its traditions and appoint key religious figures, such as archbishops and bishops, on the advice of the Prime Minister. Unlike past monarchs who were expected to be strictly Protestant, William has expressed a more inclusive view of religion. He has publicly acknowledged Britain's religious diversity and may continue his father's efforts to modernize the monarchy's relationship with different faith groups. This could mean greater interfaith dialogue, more involvement with non-Christian communities, and a continued push for a monarchy that reflects modern Britain. Although his role within the church is largely ceremonial, how William chooses to engage with religious matters could define his reign, especially in an era where the monarchy's relevance is increasingly debated. 18. The National Anthem, a historic first. One of the most immediate changes following the ascension of a new monarch has always been an update to the British national anthem. For centuries, the lyrics have changed depending on whether a king or queen sits on the throne. When Queen Elizabeth II passed away in 2022, the anthem shifted from God Save the Queen to God Save the King, reflecting King Charles III's rule. However, when William becomes king, something remarkable will happen. The anthem will remain unchanged for the first time in British history. Since William will also be a king, God Save the King will continue as is, marking a rare moment of stability in this long-standing royal tradition. While this change may seem minor, it underscores a broader theme of continuity in William's reign. Unlike past transitions that required immediate adjustments to symbols of national identity, this particular tradition will remain untouched. But while the anthem will stay the same, one of the most visible changes will be seen in British currency, where William's face will replace his father's. 17. The Money Makeover. William on British currency. For centuries, British currency has always featured the image of the reigning monarch. Right now, King Charles III's face appears on banknotes and coins, just as Queen Elizabeth II's did for over 70 years before him. But when William becomes king, his likeness will take center stage on all official British money. The transition won't happen overnight. After Queen Elizabeth's passing, it took months before King Charles's portrait was introduced on new currency, and even then the previous designs remained in circulation. The same process will apply when William takes the throne. His father's image will gradually phase out as new money is produced. One of the most fascinating traditions in British currency is that each new monarch's portrait faces the opposite direction of their predecessor. Since King Charles's portrait faces right, William's will face left, continuing a pattern that has been in place for more than 3 centuries. While most people rarely notice this detail, it's a small but symbolic reminder of how each monarch leaves their mark, even on something as everyday as pocket change. 16. The Accession Council. The official proclamation. Becoming king isn't an automatic process. It must be officially declared by a centuries-old institution known as the Accession Council. This group, consisting of senior government officials, members of the Privy Council, and representatives from across the Commonwealth, meets at St. James's Palace to formally recognize the new monarch. This tradition dates back to the time of the Tudors, ensuring that the transition of power is smooth and undisputed. The Prime Minister and senior judges are present as an official statement is read aloud, declaring William as King William V. This solemn moment is not just a formality. It is a public declaration that Britain has a new head of state. Following the Accession Council's proclamation, official announcements will be made across the country, including a public reading at the Royal Exchange in London. It is only after this process that William will take his oath of allegiance, promising to uphold British law and lead the nation. But despite this formal declaration, he won't officially be crowned until his coronation. 15. The coronation. A break from tradition? A British king's coronation is one of the grandest and most anticipated royal events, steeped in nearly 1,000 years of tradition. Every monarch since William the Conqueror in the year 1066 has been crowned at Westminster Abbey, and William V will be no exception. However, there is speculation that William's coronation will be smaller and more modern than those of his predecessors. King Charles III's coronation in 2023 was already a more scaled-back version of Queen Elizabeth's lavish event in 1953, reflecting a shift toward a more streamlined monarchy. Despite any potential changes, William's coronation will still include the most sacred traditions, including his anointing with holy oil, receiving the imperial state crown, and taking the oath of kingship. Millions worldwide will tune in to witness the historic moment, as Britain formally welcomes its new ruler. But before the coronation even takes place, the country will pause to reflect during the national mourning period, a solemn tradition that follows the passing of a monarch. 14. The mourning period. Britain pauses. When King Charles III's reign comes to an end, the United Kingdom will enter a formal period of national mourning, lasting between 10 and 12 days. During this time, public events will be cancelled or postponed. Flags across the country will be lowered to half-mast, and major television networks, including the BBC, will suspend normal programming to focus solely on royal coverage. In the days following the king's passing, thousands of people will line up to pay their respects as his body lies in state at Westminster Hall, a tradition dating back to 1912 with King Edward VII. A state funeral will then be held at Westminster Abbey, attended by world leaders, members of the royal family, and dignitaries from around the globe. This solemn transition marks the end of one era and the beginning of another. As soon as the funeral concludes, attention will shift to the new king, William V, as he prepares to lead Britain into a new chapter. 13. Prince George, the next heir to the throne. When William becomes king, his eldest son, Prince George, will immediately step into a new role as the heir to the throne. Just as William did when his father became king, George will take on greater public responsibility, gradually preparing for his future as King George VII, or another name of his choosing. Traditionally, the heir to the British throne is given the title Prince of Wales, but this isn't automatic. King Charles had to grant the title to William after Queen Elizabeth's passing, and William will have to make the same decision for George. If William follows precedent, George will become Prince of Wales, marking the next step in his royal journey. At just 10 years old, Prince George has already been introduced to royal life, appearing at major public events and shadowing his parents. As he grows older, he will take on a more visible role, much like William did under Queen Elizabeth's guidance. His education, public image, and eventual royal duties will all be carefully managed to prepare him for a future most people could never imagine. 12. Changes in succession law, a modernized monarchy. For centuries, British succession laws followed a rule known as male primogeniture, meaning younger sons could leapfrog over older daughters in the line of succession. This outdated rule meant that for much of history, women were pushed aside, even if they were the eldest child. That all changed in the year 2013, when the Succession to the Crown Act was passed, ensuring that birth order, not gender, determines the next in line. This law had a direct impact on Princess Charlotte, William and Catherine's second child. Under the old rules, her younger brother Prince Louis would have outranked her simply because he is male. But thanks to this modernized law, Charlotte remains third in line to the throne, directly after Prince George, regardless of her gender. The change was a long overdue step toward equality within the monarchy, ensuring that daughters have the same rights as sons. While the monarchy is still deeply rooted in tradition, this update reflects a shift toward a more progressive institution, one that acknowledges that times have changed and the rules of royalty must change with them. The King's Funeral, a global event. When King Charles III eventually passes away, Britain will come to a standstill for one of the most historic royal funerals in modern history. Queen Elizabeth II's funeral in September 2022 was watched by an estimated 4 billion people worldwide, making it one of the most viewed events of all time. King Charles's funeral is expected to be just as monumental. The funeral will take place at Westminster Abbey, where British monarchs have been crowned and buried for nearly 1,000 years. Heads of state, foreign dignitaries, and members of the royal family will gather to pay their respects in a meticulously planned state funeral. Charles's coffin will likely be transported through London, allowing the public to say their final goodbyes before his burial. Following the funeral, the nation's focus will shift entirely. The period of mourning will come to an end, and the transition to King William V's reign will begin in earnest. At that moment, Britain will officially enter a new royal era, with William at the helm, ready to guide the monarchy into the future. 10. Buckingham Palace, a new royal residence? For over 150 years, Buckingham Palace has been the official residence of the British monarch. But will King William and Queen Catherine move in? Unlike past monarchs, William and Catherine have preferred to live in Kensington Palace and Adelaide Cottage, enjoying a more private, family-oriented environment. There has been speculation that they may break tradition and continue living outside of Buckingham Palace, using it only for ceremonial duties. However, Buckingham Palace remains the heart of the British monarchy, a globally recognized symbol of royal power. The palace, built in the early 19th century, contains 775 rooms, including 19 staterooms used for official events, meetings with world leaders, and diplomatic reception. If William does choose to reside elsewhere, it would mark one of the biggest changes in royal tradition. However, even if he doesn't live there full-time, Buckingham Palace will still serve as the monarchy's working headquarters. Whether he modernizes its role or continues using it as a royal home, William's decision will set the tone for a new era of British royalty. 9. The role of a modern king. The British monarchy has changed dramatically over the centuries, shifting from a position of absolute power to a more symbolic role. When William becomes king, his primary responsibility will be to represent the nation rather than govern it. Unlike monarchs of the past, William will have no real political power, but his influence as a public figure will be significant. As head of state, William will continue traditions such as the state opening of Parliament, where he will deliver the King's Speech, a formal address written by the government outlining its agenda. He will also have weekly private meetings with the Prime Minister, where they discuss national and international matters. While these meetings are confidential, past prime ministers have admitted that the monarch's perspective can sometimes shape political decisions. Beyond politics, William's role will be to unite the country, particularly in times of crisis. His ability to connect with the public will be crucial as the monarchy faces growing calls for modernization and reform. How he balances tradition and change will define his reign, and perhaps even determine the future of the monarchy itself. 8. Political influence, a monarch without power? While the king's role is largely ceremonial, William will still have a unique position within the government. He won't make laws or influence policy, but he will have access to privileged information through his regular briefings with the Prime Minister, government officials, and intelligence agencies. One of his most visible responsibilities will be the appointment of the Prime Minister. Although this is mostly symbolic, it is the king's duty to formally invite the leader of the majority party in Parliament to form a government. He will also sign official documents, issue royal assent to new laws, and host state visits for foreign leaders. Despite his lack of formal power, the king's opinions can still carry weight. Historically, some monarchs have discreetly expressed their views to government officials behind closed doors. However, William is expected to follow his grandmother's example, remaining neutral and avoiding political controversy. The challenge for William will be navigating an era of increasing political and social division. In a time where public trust in the monarchy is shifting, his ability to remain a stabilizing force without overstepping his constitutional boundaries will be one of the greatest tests of his reign. 7. No passport, no driver's license, royal privileges. One of the unique privileges of being king is that William will not need a passport to travel. In the United Kingdom, passports are issued in the name of the monarch, meaning the king technically grants them, so he doesn't need one himself. This tradition has existed for centuries, allowing British rulers to travel freely without documentation. Similarly, William will not need a driver's license. Queen Elizabeth II famously drove throughout her life despite never holding an official license. She even worked as a mechanic and truck driver during the Second World War, proving that a lack of paperwork didn't stop her from getting behind the wheel. That said, while William won't be legally required to carry a license, he may still choose to drive privately. However, for official engagements, he will follow tradition and be chauffeured in one of the monarchy's luxury vehicles, likely a custom Bentley or Rolls-Royce. These small but symbolic privileges reflect the unique status of the British monarch. While William will live under public scrutiny and strict royal protocols, some long-standing traditions ensure that life as king has its advantages. 6. The annual royal Christmas speech. One of the most beloved traditions in the British monarchy is the Christmas Day broadcast. This annual speech, first introduced by King George V in 1932, allows the monarch to speak directly to the nation, reflecting on the year's events and offering a message of hope and unity. Queen Elizabeth II delivered 70 consecutive Christmas speeches, using them to address major historical moments, from wars to royal weddings and national crises. When William becomes king, he will continue this tradition, but some experts believe he may modernize the format. With William's more media-savvy approach, he could introduce a more interactive speech, possibly incorporating digital elements or even addressing younger audiences through social media platforms. While the formal tone of the speech will remain, William's version may feel more personal and relatable, mirroring his more down-to-earth public image. Regardless of the format, the Christmas speech remains one of the monarchy's most important traditions, reinforcing the king's role as a symbol of stability. As technology evolves, William's challenge will be keeping the tradition relevant for a new generation of Britons. 5. A slimmed-down royal family. For years, there have been growing calls to reduce the size of the monarchy, making it more cost-efficient and focused on key members. King Charles III has already taken steps toward a slimmed-down monarchy, cutting back on the number of working royals who receive public funding. William is expected to take this even further. Historically, the British royal family has included numerous extended relatives, many of whom carried out public duties. However, with increasing public scrutiny over taxpayer funding of the royals, William may limit official royal roles to only his immediate family, himself, Catherine, and their children. This would mean fewer royal engagements and a stronger focus on modernizing the institution. By reducing the number of working royals, William could shift the monarchy away from traditional extravagance, making it feel more in touch with the realities of modern Britain. However, a smaller monarchy also raises questions. Who will take on the responsibilities left behind? How will charitable and diplomatic duties be divided? William's decisions in this area could reshape the monarchy for generations to come. 4. Prince Harry. His place in William's monarchy. Prince Harry's relationship with the royal family has been one of the biggest royal controversies of the past decade. Since stepping down as a senior royal in 2020, Harry has distanced himself from royal duties, moving to the United States with Meghan Markle and focusing on private projects and philanthropy. When William becomes king, many will wonder, will there be a reconciliation? Despite their strained relationship, Harry is still in the line of succession. However, because he is no longer an active royal, it is unlikely he will have any official role in William's monarchy. Some speculate that William could offer Harry a symbolic royal position should their relationship improve. However, others believe Harry will remain an independent figure, focused on his work outside the monarchy. One thing is certain, Harry's place within the royal family has changed permanently. Whether he plays any part in the future of the monarchy will depend on how their relationship unfolds in the years to come. 3. The Commonwealth. Will it stay together? The British monarchy is not just the head of the United Kingdom. It also serves as the symbolic leader of the Commonwealth, a group of 54 nations, many of which were once part of the British Empire. However, in recent years, several Commonwealth nations have considered cutting ties with the monarchy and becoming republics. Countries such as Barbados have already removed the British monarch as their head of state, and others such as Jamaica, Australia, and Canada have publicly debated doing the same. When William becomes king, he will face the challenge of keeping the Commonwealth united. His success will depend on how he connects with these nations. As a more modern and relatable figure, William may have a better chance of maintaining these relationships than his predecessors. But with rising anti-monarchy sentiment, he will have to prove that the monarchy remains relevant on the world stage. If more countries choose to leave the monarchy behind, William's reign could mark a turning point, the moment when Britain's royal influence shrinks to its smallest size in centuries. 2. King William V, the future of the British monarchy. When Prince William takes the throne as King William V, his reign will be marked by both continuity and change. He will inherit centuries-old traditions, yet the world he rules over will be vastly different from the one his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, once led. One of the biggest questions surrounding William's reign is how much he will modernize the monarchy. He has already demonstrated a more relaxed, approachable style, often breaking with royal protocol to engage with the public. Will he continue this trend as king, making the monarchy more accessible and relatable? Or will he uphold the formality that has defined the British royal family for centuries? William will also face increasing pressure to justify the monarchy's role. As debates over its relevance grow, his leadership will be key in proving that the institution still has a place in 21st century Britain. Whether through a smaller royal family, updated traditions, or greater transparency, his reign will set the course for the monarchy's future. Will William be the king who revitalizes the monarchy, or will his reign signal the beginning of its decline? That remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: when William takes the throne, the monarchy will never be the same again. 1. The story is over. I need to go to sleep.